Hey, hello everybody, and hopefully you can see the slides. Let me know if there's any issues, but I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about having this balanced, healthy response to meals. This is something that, we all eat multiple times a day, but we never think about how important it is on how our bodies are actually responding to those foods that we're eating. And so today we are going to talk about how important it is to have this balanced response to the foods and especially the carbohydrates that we eat throughout the day. And this is important because carbohydrates really are our main form of energy. And how our body responds to these carbohydrates, it plays a really important role in our overall wellness. So before we get into the different ingredients and that science, it is not letting me move forward. I'm going to stop share and reshare it. Okay. We want to talk about carbohydrates because I said carbohydrates are our main macronutrient, right? That we get our energy from, and we're eating them throughout the day. So, what happens when you eat carbohydrates? So, carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugar. So, basically, when you consume these carbohydrates, they're going through your digestive system. And what happens is that you have enzymes or proteins in your small intestine that can actually break down the carbohydrates into simple sugars. And these then enter your bloodstream. And this is the blood glucose. And so, what happens when you eat, these carbohydrates are absorbed as glucose, get into your blood. This actually triggers insulin to be released. So, insulin is a hormone that's released throughout the body. And what insulin does is it's basically signaling your cells in your body, hey, we just ate, we need to take up the glucose energy so we can use it. So, insulin is able to actually move the glucose into the cells. So, a few hours after you eat, your insulin and glucose return to baseline. And this is a normal biological process. And so, if we go to the next slide, I apologize. For some reason, it does not want to, keeps freezing on me. So, a normal process is what I just showed, in that you can see that when you eat, your glucose is at baseline. And if you eat carbohydrates in a healthy meal, you're going to have an increase in that glucose, which is going to return to baseline. And this is normal. And this is what should happen when you feel satisfied and you don't have hunger afterwards. Unfortunately, many of us, when we consume carbohydrate foods, we have this unhealthy response. And what this means is that when you consume the carbohydrate, you have a higher peak and then you actually go below baseline. You kind of have a crash afterwards. And so, what happens when you have this is you have more food cravings, hunger, and just decreased energy throughout the day. And so if we look at carbohydrates, we need carbohydrates. Like Kathy mentioned, we need them. Our bodies need them, especially if you're exercising a lot. But unfortunately, we're getting them probably from the forms and the foods that we don't want to. And so if you look at added sugars, we are getting around 270 calories a day from excess added sugar, where the recommendation is around 100 calories per day. And a major contributors of these added sugars that you just need to have a careful eye on is, what are you drinking? It's always good to look at, okay, what are you drinking right now? Is it a sugar sweetened beverage? Is it a sweetened coffee and tea? we want to avoid those. And also, like candies and desserts and just sweet snacks are also sources of these sugar foods. So, why is this important? Like, why are we so concerned about how our bodies utilize glucose? So, unfortunately, when we have dysregulation in glucose metabolism, we have increased oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is a normal process of how we metabolize glucose in our bodies. So, we're not going to take an hour, 2 hours to go through this graph on the slide. It's complex, right? But what we want you to understand is it's just a normal process that you are going to create these reactive oxygen species when you are metabolizing glucose. This is normal. But if you have more of those peaks and valleys that I showed a couple slides ago, you're going to have even more oxidative stress. And so antioxidants are really important in helping protect against these reactions in the body. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So, what are some of the different ways that we can support our healthy response to food? So, I think the most obvious is, making sure that we're consuming healthy foods throughout the day. So, making sure you're getting enough fiber. Fiber really helps dull that response of the glucose, making sure that you're getting plenty of vegetables and fruits, which deliver fiber, but they're also giving some of those really great antioxidants, like I just mentioned, that helps with the oxidative stress. Also, just limiting the simple sugars that we talked about, making sure you're not drinking a lot of sweetened beverages and desserts, making sure you're getting plenty of protein and fat and the vitamins and minerals. Physical activity is also really important. There's some really great research showing that, if after a meal, if you just go take even a short 10-minute walk, that can really help with that response of the foods that you eat. Having a healthy microbiome is really important. And more research is coming out on how the healthy microbiome is interacting with the foods we eat and how we respond to them. And then, of course, there's different specific plant-based compounds that can help have a healthy, balanced response to foods. And that's what we'll spend the rest of the time today talking on the science. So the first ingredient that we want to talk about is white mulberry leaf. And so white mulberry leaf is this common food ingredient that's widely used across Asia. But what we always like to point out is not all mulberry leaves are created equally. So we feel that the white mulberry leaf is the most important because it has been clinically studied compared to the red or black. And we'll talk about what it's standardized to on the next slide. We'll talk about some clinical studies and also an effective dose. These are all really important points for mulberry leaf. So mulberry leaf is standardized to an active ingredient, which I will refer to as D&J. What that stands for is deoxynogerrimycin. So that is a mouthful, and that's why we call it D&J. And what is so unique about D&J is that it has a very similar structure to just simple sugars like glucose. And so, what happens when you're consuming a meal that contains carbohydrates that are being broken down into simple sugars, along with D&J from the white mulberry leaf, you basically have this competition of the same binding site for the enzymes that can break down these carbohydrates into the simple sugars that can then be absorbed. So, D&J really competitively inhibits those enzymes to help slow or impede the carbohydrate absorption. It doesn't stop all the carbohydrate absorption, but it stops some of it and it slows it down. So you have a healthier response to high carbohydrate foods. And so one of the most common questions we get is, well, what happens to these undigested carbohydrates? So like I said, it doesn't stop all of the absorption. It just slows down the breaking down of those carbohydrates so they're absorbed. So you have that healthier response. And they continue traveling through the small intestine where they can get into the large intestine or your colon. And that's where they can actually either pass through and be excreted out, or they can be broken down by the microbiome and utilized as metabolites, which are beneficial for just overall colonic health. And so mulberry leaf is really quite unique in that it helps with various types of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are a lot of different types, lots of subclasses. And the difference between different carbohydrates is that they have different bonds that link the sugars together. And so what that means is that you need different enzymes that digest these carbohydrates into those simple molecules that can be absorbed and utilized. And so studies have actually shown that mulberry leaf can actually slow the digestion of both like simple sugars, table sugar, or it can also decrease starches like maltodextrin. And it can do this because it can inhibit two classes of enzymes that break down carbohydrates, both alpha glucosidase, which breaks down the digestion of sugars, and then alpha amylase, which slows down the sugar of starches. And starches are like the carbohydrates that you get from like rices and pastas. And so we also like to point out, mulberry leaf, again, it's quite unique in that it's able to inhibit the impact, the digestion of both sugars and starches, where other ingredients like white kidney bean are only impacting alpha amylases, which are only impacting starches and not the digestion of other sugars or carbohydrates. And so let's get into some of the science and the studies that have been done with the mulberry leaf extract. So this study was a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study. And so what that means is that these healthy subjects came in two different times. So the first time they came in, they got 75 grams of sucrose, and that's actually equal to about 6 tablespoons of sugar. So it's quite a bit of sugar, along with mulberry one time they came in, and then they had a washout period, and they came back again, and they consumed that same amount of sugar but with the placebo. And what they did is they tracked their glucose and their insulin response for a 2-hour period after that consumption. And what you can see in the graphs, the first graph is showing blood glucose, and mulberry leaf extract significantly lowered that peak blood glucose by about 42%. And you can see that graph in the red, you can see that it dips below baseline. You're having that higher peak and that lower crash of that glucose. Again, you're seeing the same trend for the insulin, and that insulin is higher as well when you do not consume the mulberry leaf extract. And so another study was done with starch, a maltodextrin, so that different linkage, right, for the carbohydrates. So this again was a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study. And these healthy subjects received either 50 grams of maltodextrin with the mulberry or the 50 grams of maltodextrin with the placebo. And we see the same benefits, that you have a significant increase in the blood glucose and insulin when you're not consuming the mulberry leaf extract. And another study was done that actually looked at a full meal. So it just wasn't a carbohydrate. It actually was carbohydrate, so white bread, along with some protein and a fat. And again, this was in healthy individuals, and they tracked the time of glucose and insulin for a few hours after the consumption of this meal. And again, they saw the same thing, that they saw a significantly reduced total blood glucose and insulin compared to placebo. And this was just one dose, right? So you consume this with a meal and you will get a healthier response to your meals. So this mulberry leaf extract really is a great ingredient, and that, we've talked through a few of the studies that have been published showing its efficacy. There's more studies that we just don't have time to go into today. And it really shows that, it promotes healthy response to different types of carbohydrates that we eat throughout the day. And we also know that it works, again, like I just mentioned, acutely, just with one dose. And there aren't any negative or safety issues along with this mulberry leaf extract. So mulberry leaf extract really is important for just helping with this overall healthy balance and healthy response to the foods. Another great plant-based ingredient is guar gum. So guar gum is delivering soluble fiber, and this is also known as galactomannan. And the specific guar gum that we'll share studies with on today is treated with a natural enzyme process that helps with solubility. So when you're mixing it in water, it mixes well. And this specific guar gum has been clinically studied and shown to help with satiety. And satiety is really important and another aspect of how your body is responding to food throughout the day. And guar gum is quite unique in that it's slowly fermented. It is a prebiotic, which means it's feeding those good bacteria in our guts, and it's safe and well tolerated. And so this is really important because so many other fiber sources are rapidly fermented, and unfortunately, they can cause side effects like gas and bloating. And so if you specifically look at guar gum, the dose that is needed and been clinically shown to be efficacious for helping satiety is 2 grams. But if you're looking at many of the other common fiber sources, you can see that you need 10 to even 20 grams. And when you're getting to that 10 to 20 gram level of fiber, that can cause a lot of GI disruption. And so guar gum is really great in that you can have that low dose, but it has been shown to be efficacious. And a mechanism that guar gum is working in the body is that it increases the levels of a hormone marker of satiety called CCK. And CCK increases when you have a significant increase in short chain fatty acids. So fiber is broken down by the healthy microbiota. It produces these short chain fatty acids, which can then signal satiety through CCK. And what this tells the brain is, hey, I just ate, I'm not hungry, I'm full, don't eat. And this is really important. And what studies have shown with the guar gum in, again, a crossover study, double blind, in healthy subjects, they saw that when individuals consumed yogurt with 2 grams of the guar gum or placebo, they saw a significant improvement in not only feelings of satiety, they also had a significant decrease in perception of hunger, but they also tracked their calories throughout the day. So they consumed that yogurt with the guar gum or placebo at breakfast, and then they tracked their calories throughout the day. And they had a significant reduction in the amount of calories that they took in if they consumed that guar gum. So that effect impacted it throughout the day. And, this is just really important to understand that adding fiber really does help make a meal healthier. It supports digestion, and it does this by helping support those balancing levels of energy that can result in reducing food cravings and snackings throughout the day. So we actually did a study on a blend of mulberry leaf extract that delivered 12.5 milligrams of DNJ along with 2 grams of guar gum. And we asked participants to consume it with their largest meal during the day. These were healthy subjects. And what we saw was a significant reduction in feelings of hunger and desire to eat, and also cravings, along with things that were sweet, salty, and savory. So really great results, and it was well tolerated with no reported adverse effects throughout the study. So this is a great ingredient and blend of ingredients. But then, as we've talked about, when you have that blood glucose dysregulation, you can have increased oxidative stress. And so beta carotene, which is a potent antioxidant, it's also a carotenoid, has been shown to help improve oxidative stress in your body. So it can help with oxidative stress and how your body's responding as it metabolizes the carbohydrates and the foods that you're eating. So just to summarize, the 3 ingredients that we talked about today were mulberry leaf extract, which is really there to help support a balanced response to the meals that you're eating. We have the guar gum that's really helping improve those feelings of satiety and fullness and reducing cravings. And then there's beta carotene to really help provide that antioxidant protection against oxidative stress. So I hope you learned something. I'm sure you have lots of questions, and we will be doing more trainings on these ingredients moving forward. And we're really excited to share even more science as we get it. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelly, so much. That was fantastic, you guys. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of everything that's going on. So you guys learned so much today. But again, the most important thing on all of our products is that anytime you share a claim, that you make sure it's on the PIP. So I want you to take a picture of this. We'll get the PIP to you very, very soon. But this right here is very important. You have your do's and your don'ts, okay? So M Smart helps you feel more energized, satisfied, in control after every meal, fuller for longer. M Smart supports, don't ever leave out a word, okay? M Smart supports healthy blood sugar levels, a balanced response to glucose, and long-term balance. M Smart helps you avoid the spike in crash cycle and snack temptations. So you can use words that are here. Again, don't leave anything out because then you're changing the claims, okay? Now, again, I know Kathy already went over this, but again, if you're jumping on late, what can you not say? Here are the things that you cannot say. So don't do these. You cannot make any medical claims, right? Insulin claims. You cannot make weight loss claims. Anything with medical conditions. And this is for all products, right, you guys? So this is just a reminder. You cannot be comparing any prescription medication, right? Appetite suppressant. You cannot say that, or bloating. So here's what, with this product, you cannot say. So very, very important that you guys are prepared with what you can and can't say. So if we go to the next slide one more time, here's what's happening. So next week is our preview. If you are a brand rep and you ran really hard to hit it and did not use any of your flex blocks on the 24th, one day only, you're going to get 2 allocations. Okay. If this is your first time in a preview, guess what? We have a little video on how to share those allocations. You can only share them within the US. So a US account to a US account. So you can watch how to do that if you need a little reminder. So on the 24th, you'll get 2 allocations. My recommendation, you guys, use those for yourself. Once you're on it, you're not going to want to get off, and this doesn't officially launch till August 1st, okay? Now, on day 2 of the preview, for all of our brand reps and above, we're going to give you 25 codes. So if you have affiliates on your team that are wanting to try this product, great. Give them an allocation to go and get their purchase. If you have a few customers that are already wanting to try it, great. This is a preview for you to try it, fall in love, so you can be ready for when we officially launch on August 1st, okay? So you guys, I'm so excited. I told you right from the beginning, I've been testing this product since January 1st, and I feel great because I no longer have the spikes and crashes. It just helps me feel better every single day when I take this product, and it's immediate. Like, I can personally feel it the day that I started, and it only gets better over time. So cannot wait for you guys to get this product and try it. Like I said, we are streaming right now on Facebook. So you can always go back and toggle in there and answer any questions that you might have. But we will get you as much information as possible. And I hope you love it as much as I do, you guys. So happy June 18th. You can start sharing about the product. That was a question. Yes, you can. Again, following those guidelines. All right, you guys, let's have a great Wednesday, June 18th. Can't wait to see what you guys do with this product. Bye, guys.
M Smart, a smart support for real energy. No spikes, no crashes. Get off the sugar roller coaster and avoid the after lunch slump. helps support a healthy glucose response after eating. Give yourself steady energy to help you through school pickup, the commute home, and the early evening crash. M Smart, a smart support for real energy.